Hey everybody, back again for our Saturday session. Uh, Pulled in a little late tonight due to the game coming up and whatnot, and just wanted to hang out for a few and knock this out before everything got moving. And just wanted to follow up and make sure everything was posted, and we did the daily as promised. So bear with me just a second while I let everybody know it's live, and we are going to go from there. And I am going to knock this thing out. Today, in the first bit of this series of characters, I am doing Lion-O from the original ThunderCats series. If you don't know this series, I'm sure if you're a comics fan at all, you've seen the original at some point. That's the version I'm doing. But if you don't know the series at all, either from the new or the original, what happened was some alien cat people from a planet called Thundera um, had to move to Earth, Third Earth particularly, a Tolkien reference, and they moved to the planet to call it New Thundera and reestablish their population before they died out. Same scenario of pretty much every alien race at the time. It was definitely prominent, that everybody wanted to come here for some reason, but it is what it is. So we are um, knocking this one out on the verge of showing this series in my artistic style, and hopefully I know everybody's looking for I hope everybody digs it, because what they're looking for normally is the whole thing of the Sword of Omens, the Claw Shield, things like that. And what I'm doing with this particular series is I'm going to be showing some action shots, but I'm going to be doing more poses than anything, because I want to make sure that, one, it sticks within the original series, and two, this medium being so small with these cards, I don't want to go make them too tiny to where we can't get in the detail that we want. But I want to test and see exactly how they look in my modern style, because as a child I used to draw these all the time, and it's just one of those things. I just wanted to test it and see how it looked, and as a daily card character artist, I just wanted to find out what my style looked at, because by the time this series is done, one of the best things about it is the fact that I'll be able to step in and say, okay, we've got everything under her thumb. I've drawn literally everything possible, and that's what I want to have when I finish this set. I don't want to leave any cards on the table that I haven't successfully drawn in my style adaptation of some sort. And I'm a little more relaxed and calm today. I'm still just cutting up and having a good time, but I've been sticking hard to the whole monopoly thing and whatnot, in the comics industry and stuff. Today I'm just keeping it really relaxed because it is Saturday. Like I said, just want to keep it open and easygoing and get back to the basics of the drawing, because I've got this course coming out this week, and just I've been having a good day, and I don't want to get all dramatic and into that. But I tell you, this series was one of the first cartoons that I really got into, that surprised me beyond the normal Hanna-Barbera just infatuation with comics and comic heroes. This style and this genre, sci-fi and things like that, is what got me into comics in the first place. And then when I met up with this series, I tell you, because you had G.I. Joe right about the same time, and then the Transformers came along, and then this series came along, Silverhawks, and then you had the Tiger Sharks, which were in the future and even further than this one. And then you had things like, oh goodness, it's just all these other series. Let's see. Pirates of Darkwater was a good one in the 90s that I really resonated with. Um, Thunder the Barbarian was a really great one. You know, a lot of 80s and 90s cartoons were really influential on this, and this is definitely one that takes the bait, you know, for setting me up for comics that I do now. Uh, that's one of the big things that the Thundercats did for me is it allowed me to draw things that weren't human, and it inspired me to get into fantasy. And then I got into Tolkien and a couple of other things, and it just blew me out of the water as far as the artistic design for those. I mean, even just the the pulp style pinups that were in the old books, um, just crazy stuff. And then when they came out with the toy line, and I believe it was Marvel that had them for a little while, and then Star Coast came out with their own line of comics and got the licensing for the Thundercats. When all of that took place, I was just gone, man. I was just blown away. There was no turning back at that point. Um, I wanted to see these things go live action, and I knew they wouldn't for a while. And with the new movie coming up and whatnot, and the new animated series and all that coming along, I think it's just going to be interesting to see how they take it. As you can see, I've got a little more of the cat nose thing going on underneath Lionel's nose here, and the reason for that is because of the fact that they're cat people, but no one ever differentiates that and aligns that. I've seen one or two artists start to do it, but for the most part, everybody keeps them very human, and they don't want to mess with them too much because of the fact that that's what the original design was. And it's odd to see that in actuality because you never know what's going to happen with that. Everybody's like, well, how far do we mutate them? How far do we take them? And how far, can the look go without getting too far-fetched or whatnot? And it's like, really? It's sci-fi in the first place. How can you get any more far-fetched than that? But people don't, and they take it very seriously and stick to the original and go from there. This is one of the first Japanese series that I ever saw, the manga influenced type of series that I ever got hooked into right after G-Force and Gatchaman. I was just dumbfounded and hooked into those characters. I didn't get into Robotech until after this came along. It was a later influential piece that I just didn't pick up to the puzzle just yet at the time. All my friends were into Robotech and, the GoBots and Transformers and all that mess, and I was into more of the Thundar and, the Thundercats and the He-Man stuff. But once I got hooked into it, you couldn't get me away from it. I've talked a little bit about that before. My younger brother, when we were kids, he went into Ninja Turtles and G.I. Joe, and I was more into the Thundercats, He-Man, Silverhawks, Transformers, that kind of thing, the sci-fi stuff. And it was just phenomenal, man. I mean, it was just a fun time, and nobody ever talks about it anymore. And I don't know how many artists have actually come up to me and they'll message me or come up to me and say, man, I love your stuff, but, and you'll hear things like, that's before my time, kind of thing. And it's just sad. Know where you're coming from with your stuff, and check this stuff out because it's part of the legacy as comic creators. It's part of our legacy for these type of stories to come back because they don't exist anymore. Everybody's so wound up with the next new thing, they're missing out on all these great characters and great setup and all that stuff that go along. And this one is one of my favorites and always will be, and I just wanted to pay due respect to it while having a little fun, you know what I mean? So this will be the first in the series. There will be all of the primary Thundercats coming along. Tigra, Chitara's in there, Panthro's in there, Wily Cat, and even Snarf. And I'm going to finish it out with a couple of the villains from the original series. They have changed a little bit since the new one came out, but this series was done when all those comics and cartoons were the hottest possible. I mean, you could do anything you wanted in those studios, and no one cared until it came out and found out, you found out it was a hit or not. And they filmed all this stuff over in Japan, and that's why it had that timeless look that everybody looks for, but no one understood as to exactly how it formed up and where it came from. And we need to get back to that, doing the best production possible and bringing this stuff to life instead of just throwing it out there with whatever studio throws money at it. We need to take control of that industry. But anyway, this is going to be, like I said, it's not the big fancy, Sword of Omens cool kind of thing that everybody wanted exactly, but it is the ThunderCats nonetheless. And I'm going to black out these eyebrows because I want to make him really pop. And it's got kind of a transcendent look whenever he has the black eyebrows and versus the red ones. And it offsets the look of the entire character because it pops his face out, kind of more of a cat look, and it gives it that weird feature like a Dracula kind of thing going on, which makes it play off to that really well. And if I was to ever draw this series, I would love to just get back into drawing this guy like he used to be, rather than getting into all the new stuff, where they change him up for it's all armor and whatnot. However, I will say this: in researching them, I did change my opinion to the original versus the new. I like the remake. I do. I've paid attention to a lot of it, and it does pay homage and respect to the original, but it's not the original by any means. It is definitely a unique and different version of the story. Panther is actually not a Thundercat in there. He has changed to a general for Mumra, which I found very fascinating that they actually did that, because it was just, I was like, really? He's been captured and broken down and now he works for him kind of thing. And it's weird. But it's a great modern twist. I know a lot of older guys that can't wrap their head around it. There's a lot of the 80s fans that just can't wrap their head around that one. But I support the show. I'm glad ThunderCats is still alive. I'm glad they're talking to people about participation in a film, a live-action movie, which it's still completely rumored right now because we'll never get down to it until it shows up. It's one of those things, you can't believe it until it's real and in your face kind of thing. And I'm not normally that skeptical when stuff comes out, when news comes out about stuff. I like to ride that, and find out what's going to happen and follow it and whatnot, like, major films have done. The new Star Wars stuff came out. I really enjoyed following that. Then there's a lot of new animation coming out and a lot of new comics coming out, which I follow a lot. But on this particular case, though, it's kind of up in the air. It would be like them saying that there's going to be a Silverhawks movie, which I just can't see them doing just yet because it doesn't resonate. And with the Power Rangers new live action movie coming out on top of it, it's going to have that look and feel. And I don't know if it's going to be far-fetched or people will get it or what, because you got to figure out what's in there and what everybody wants to see and what everybody will follow in fan base. Now I'm putting these marks under his eyes not to age him, but to give a little bit different anatomy because of the fact that he is alien, and I like to move around just a little bit to shake things up. And I just want to move forward with this change up just a little bit there. I don't like the way that cut out, so I'm going to darken it up to make it hold up a little bit. There we go. I'm getting messaged like crazy. Everybody's telling me, dude, the game's on. What are you doing? Because there's like 10 college games today. I'm finding it very fascinating. But, I went out this morning and we had a couple of things going on. It was one of those deals where I just wanted to get out of the house a little bit and take a break, unplug, and I went to the Air and Space Museum for Lieutenant Colonel. It specifically targets Lieutenant Colonel Thomas Stafford's material and his career, and it was phenomenal. And I just wanted to make sure that we got this card going because we keep this series alive by knocking this stuff out. And it's okay if you want to go see the game. That's all right. That's what replays are for. But I just wanted to get this particular band of cards started because this series is getting thick. This is number 130. It's either 130 or 131. I'm not sure exactly. I have to look again. I've done so many of these now. They've run together. I have to map them all up and post them real quick and find out exactly what's going on. Now, I made him youthful in the face, bigger eyes, bigger nose, bigger chin, because of the fact that I wanted him to have that youth look. Because this is a dude in his mid-20s stuck in that life size, but physically, but mentally and emotionally, he's still a 12, 13-year-old kid. And when he jumped into this series, what they did was they had him as the young child prince, and he got kicked around in space in a crash when they landed on Earth, and his pod messed up, and it aged him. So it didn't age everybody else. They were in cryostasis, but it aged him. So when they woke up and came out of it, it was all about him being a grown man, and it messed him up. So that's where the series went, and that's why they had to have the Guardians of the original ThunderCats team, which were there to raise him and train him and teach him. So that is one of the things I'm trying to make sure I don't overshadow this. That's one of the things, you have to watch out for with series like that, because you miss those details. And they didn't do that in this remake series as well, because they had Tiger be his brother and change things up to where Panthro was out of the picture, so he didn't have his guardian as much as in the original series. And then you had things like Panthro out of the picture, like I said, just broken and busted up. And then you had Tigra jacked up because that was his little brother now, and Chitara's in there as a mixed love interest, orphaned mess. And she's a teenager, a little bit older than them, and it's just crazy. But it's a fun series. It is a fun series. I've got hope for it, even though now that it's probably over, because I've heard rumors that it's just gone already. And if that's the case, it's typical. I tend to get on the bandwagon a little late, but with series like that are questionable. But this guy's got a lot going on that a lot of people just don't know about. And if you haven't seen the original series, be sure and check it out. Just like Voltron being rebooted on Netflix. Get in there and check it out. If you don't, you'll be very disappointed that you did once you do find out. Hey, Alfred, thanks for coming on, man. Let's see here. I am going to map out the rest of this particular face paint that he has, which are his natural markings for the lion look. And then we are going to call this one done. I really enjoy this one because of the fact that This character is so fan friendly. Let's put it that way, because he's had a learning experience throughout the seasons of the original series that a lot of people did not see or get, and this is the one thing that left him open to learn all of the skills and crafts instead of just being, being the guy that's out there. If you watch the original series, if he's kind of awkward and geeky, it's because of the fact that he is a kid in a man's body, like I previously mentioned, and that's the whole thing. You'll see him in the series, and he's kind of goofy, and that's what it's about. He's all about coming on and showing the lesson to be learned at the time, and that's where he gets his power from, is learning how to handle his situation of being in that life situation that couldn't be more far from where he planned to be when they landed. Because he expected to have time to learn and grow and whatnot, and his body grew and he got trapped. They stayed in the same position and he didn't. So now they have to come to fruition with caring for him the way they were supposed to. And that's what the series is about. So if you ever watch the original and you see, he's out there in the woods, acting like a kid, and it's like, dude, this is a grown man. Why is he acting this way? It's because of the fact that he's trapped in a man's body, and he's got the mentality of a child. So you just have to figure out what version resonates with you the most and go from there. They did the same thing with Prince Adam, where he was kind of for lack of a better word, he was a nerdy, geeky, out of place teenager, and became a 20-something of the same size and age. And Adam had a lot to learn because of the fact that he had to get a crash course because he became He-Man. And he originally wasn't supposed to be He-Man. He was supposed to be Prince Adam. He was not supposed to get the power. But the rise of Skeletor and the monster horde that he had ended up making him have to take that position. And I just always resonate with the underdog. I just love those characters. So that's one of those things. It's one of those type of series you just have to watch and dig and understand from where it's coming from, and give it a chance to do what it needs to do to show you, hey, this is pretty cool. Otherwise, you'll be left out in the dark because you'll be like, hey, this guy's an idiot. But you have to understand, like I said, he's a grown man trapped with a child's mentality. So check out some of those old great cartoons, and as this series goes along, you'll get to see a bunch of them in play, and hopefully you'll dig the artwork that I'm doing for them, and it'll inspire you to go maybe check out some older cartoons and see where this stuff is coming from. So okay, gonna layer this in just a little. I don't want to black it out too much because I want it to be just a little bit of shadowing, but I don't want it to black it out to where it looks like Tigra, because that's not the point. If it looks like Tigra, then we've gone too far. So, but I just want to give him some texture and depth to this hair, because it looks weird when it's just a big red ball on his head. So we're going to give him a little bit of texture here. That'll make it pop off just a little bit more. I totally agree, man. If you guys can't see this at the time, depending on where you're watching this from, Alfred just posted that he thinks that the comic books and the the comic books for He-Man and for ThunderCats were really good, and I totally agree. They've redone them since, and it was phenomenal. There's a lot of stuff going on in there where it's really, really cool. So they redid them just a few years ago and brought them back to life a little bit, and it was really cool and fun. I mentioned that the other day. Ed McGuinness and J. Scott Campbell were working on those projects, and they had a bright, colorful, animated style that just ripped it a new one, plain and simple. If they would bring that back for a couple more of these properties, it would just change the way people viewed comics for these 80s cartoon properties. But the rights got snatched up because of the fact that it was a limited run, and then now they're redoing, like I said, they're redoing the ThunderCats as a movie, and they're also redoing Masters of the Universe, which is He-Man, the title for the series of He-Man itself, and they're going to be doing that as well. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. We'll have to wait and see how that comes out. But for today, this is going to be Lion-O. And I hope you guys dig it. I hope you check it out. Tomorrow will be Tigra, and we'll see how it matches up in my style and goes from there. And I appreciate you hanging out with me and giving me a little bit of your time on a weekend, a Saturday afternoon. And we will go from there. So you guys take care, and I'll catch you tomorrow.